Hey everybody, it's Sabrina. Just popping in here to remind you that every weekend, on Saturday, we're going to be sending you episodes of a new show our colleagues are making. The show is called The Interview. This weekend, David Marchese talks to comedy star Marlon Wayans. A quick warning, there's some swearing and references to sex and sexual assault. Okay, here's the show.
From the New York Times, this is The Interview. I'm David Marchese. It's not easy to make what some people might call dumb comedy, because if it were, more people would have a career as successful as Marlon Wayans. Wayans broke out in the early 2000s when he co-wrote and co-starred in slapsticky parody comedy movie hits like Scary Movie 1 and 2, White Chicks, and my personal favorite, Little Man, which for those of you who don't remember is one in which he plays an adult masquerading as a baby. He spends most of the movie in a diaper. Marlon is the youngest of 10 children, and he's a member of the Wayans family comedy dynasty, which also includes his successful siblings Damon, Sean, Kim, and Keenan Ivory Wayans. They all had a hand in the groundbreaking 90s sketch comedy show In Living Color. And Marlon went from there to later starring on 5 seasons of the WB sitcom The Wayans Brothers. He made all those hit movies I mentioned, and then on top of all that, he's also built a nice career for himself as a supporting player in dramatic movies. But recently, Wayans, who's now 51, has been using his comedy to work through some much heavier topics. His upcoming stand-up special, called Good Grief, is all about the death of his parents, as well as the nearly 60 other loved ones he's lost in just the last few years. When I talked to Marlon, he was in Albuquerque, where he was filming a psychological horror movie with Jordan Peele's production company, and he was getting ready to host a party for the film's cast and crew, where everyone was expected to show up in cowboy gear. Here's my conversation with Marlon Wayans. Hi, Marlon.
What's up, David?
How are you?
I'm good. Tired.
Tired from filming?
Yeah, man. This one is it's a lot on the 50-year-old body. 51. But it's great.
You said you're tired, but you're having a party tonight? Is that what I just heard?
Yeah. When I do movies, I like to form community and family. And so I'm having a party for my cast and my crew at my house that I'm renting. And just kind of gathering. The fights are going to be on, and just so people could mingle and roll some cigars and have some tacos.
Well, you know, since you're having a party tonight.
Shindig.
A shindig, a knees up.
You want to pull up?
It seems like a perfectly natural thing to talk about the subject of your new special, which is the death of your parents.
Gang, gang. Isn't that crazy? That people are like, what's your next special? I'm like, oh, it's a really funny, hilarious journey about the death of my parents. But it wasn't just the death of my parents. I lost 58 people that I loved in a matter of 3 years. And it felt like biblical. You know, you read things in the Bible and you go, man, that's some real traumatic stuff that person went through. And then they find this light. At the end, we get the lessons. And it's always through like tragedy.
How do you find the funny thing in the sad thing? Or when did you realize that you could make comedy out of these traumatic events?
It's been a gift since I was a kid. I mean, all of us, Wayanses, we're crazy people. Like, the worst thing happens, and the first thing we think is what's funny about it. There's funny absolutely everywhere. I remember my cousin said he died, and my auntie buried him on jeans, and he had a T-shirt and some Air Force Ones and a baseball cap. And me and Damon sitting over his casket, and Damon looks at me and goes, you know, if there's a dress code in heaven, I don't think Seti's getting in. And people thought we were crying, but we were crying laughing. We always look for laughs.
Are there elements of the new special that you can point to and say, you know, this is a kind of joke or the kind of material that I couldn't have done 5 years ago or 10 years ago? Like, what in it is evidence of your growth as a comedian?
I think as a comedian, I'm getting to the good stuff. this was the hardest thing for me to do, to work on this material about my mom passing. And I'm still dealing with the grief as my dad is on his way to transitioning. I had 2 shows the night my father passed. I had 2 shows. And I pulled up to the comedy club and I get a call and my dad died. I was like, okay. All right. Cried in the car real fast. Boom. I had a show. I didn't cancel the show. I did my show. And then right there in the stage, I told the audience my dad passed, and I broke down, I cried. And then I got ready for the next show. And I think in order to grow as a comedian, for me, it's like talking about the hard stuff. When you talk about real life pain, like parents passing, something everybody may go through, and you can get through that set, and you can find these nuances of funny, and you can still be irreverent, edgy, crazy, silly, thought-provoking, and vulnerable all at the same time. I think that's growth. And I miss my parents dearly, but I'm a different human with my parents gone than I was when they were here, because I think now I'm a man. I don't have parents anymore. So I live differently, and I understand the quality of life. I want to vacation more. I don't look at my phone as much. I walk. I never went outside and walked. I was never a walker. I thought people was crazy. Why are you walking? Like, bro, get on. Every morning I get up, and for 1.5 hours, I go for a walk just to clear my mind, just to think. And it has me thinking in ways that I never thought before. I pray more, because when I pray, I feel like I'm speaking to my parents and that they're listening. And I let them know what's going on. I report back to them. Like Mork, when he used to talk to Ork.
Good reference.
Into the show. Very, very, very 1980s, 70s. But my identity has been concreted in the departure of my legendary parents.
So the key to self-improvement, it's simple. You just have to have your parents die.
That's a way. Sometimes they'll break you, though. You know what's crazy? My mother's death broke me. It shattered me into a million pieces, because that was my girl. I never got married because I never wanted my mother to be jealous of a woman. I never wanted my mother to feel second to any woman.
Is that true? You know that's the reason why you never got married?
Absolutely. I was one of 5 reasons. But I'll say that was like number 2. Number 1 is I was gonna fuck that up. It's gonna happen. Everybody that knows that I haven't been married, they say all you did was skip 2 divorces. And my mom was very needy. And I told my mother on her deathbed, I said I never got married because I always wanted you to be my number 1 girl. Those were my last words. I said, take that to heaven with you.
So I realize as we're talking about this, talking about your parents, I not really making the case that this is a particularly funny special. This is like,
no, it's hilarious.
Seriously.
Yo, bro, let me tell you, it's about 1 hour and 7 minutes. It's hilarious for about 1 hour and 5. And then you have spread throughout the special 2 to maybe 3 minutes of heart. I'm proud of this special because I think it's going to make you feel, because I'm crazy and I know it, and I could be inappropriate and I know it, and I'm always going to be obnoxious in that way. I think in order for me to hit the different levels of comedy, you got to be somewhat offensive, and I'm okay with that. But when you hit that the frequency that speaks to heart, and it's so relatable. You don't think that these things that you're going through, you think that it's just happening to you, but you do these sets and you're like, wow, this is happening to a lot of people. You
said, to reach certain levels of comedy, you got to be offensive. And there is the material in the special. I'm thinking in particular of the Magic Johnson AIDS material.
Oh, you saw the special.
I saw it, yeah. Which, by the way, he has HIV, not AIDS. You should go in and redub that. Yeah. You know what the other mistake you make is? You call Louis Armstrong
I know.
sax player.
I know.
Trumpet player.
but it was still funny, right? Here's the thing. You can't be super like on point with the facts. When you're telling jokes, sometimes you tell the jokes, man. And it was crazy is like, I've had friends and relatives to die from AIDS. And so part of even that joke is finding humor in things that happen. It's a different way to look at something tragic. And I think the world has forgot how to laugh. And part of it is we're grooming people to be sensitive. But I find when I'm in a comedy club, people like to laugh. They like to laugh at those dark things, the magic jokes. People want to laugh again. And I'm trying to deprogram and like get us back to just laughing.
So in the special, there's one magic joke I'm thinking about in particular, where I understand what you're saying, that you sort of have this series of jokes where you're framing it like Magic's life got better after he got sick. That's kind of the hypothesis of the jokes. But then you like throw in a line about like sex with monkeys or whatever, and that was the one really where I cringed. I was like, oof, that's rough.
Well, I said, show me the monkey I got next. I didn't say he had sex with monkeys. I said, I don't know how he got this good version of this of this disease, but however he got that, I want that. I want it that way. To me, that was escapism because it's not real. Of course, he didn't have sex with a monkey. No. If you read into every joke, if you get literal, everybody's going to be offended by it. There's I'll play 72 things in that special to be offended by. I think great humor is take whoever you send up, those people are laughing the loudest. And I hope that Magic laughs the loudest at that joke, which he will. Magic has a great sense of humor. I hope Shaq laughs at his joke. I hope all of them laugh at...
Do your Shaq impression right now. Do your Shaq impression.
Kobe. They're friends of mine, right? When Kevin Hart does a LeBron hairline joke, I don't think LeBron gets mad. I think, part of it is it's all out there, right? I'm not telling no secrets. This is all out there. I'm just going, here's a different way to look at it. I rescued myself from depression by learning to laugh in my worst circumstances. Losing my parents broke me. And I'm telling the audience, here's how you can survive this. Find humor in everything.
The idea of the culture getting too sensitive or overly sensitive, it's something that people have been talking about and have identified for a while now. And I'm just interested in sort of digging into that a little bit more, because on one hand, what we might say is too sensitive could also be understood as, the culture being made safe for people who didn't feel safe in the culture before. Like the example that comes to mind for me is, it's one that has to do with your life. You have a trans son, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the sensitivity around how people talk about transgender people and, what they say and how we think about transgender people, that is directly related to a change in the culture that allows your son to live the life that he wants to live.
Absolutely.
These things are connected. So how do you see that connection? Like on the one hand, what you're calling the sensitivity, on the other hand, how a culture actually changes.
I'm working on a beautiful hour about that, about the transition. And as a parent that went through it, I think I have something to say that forwards the agenda of that kind of unconditional love and acceptance for your child and for others. I went through it. And the transition wasn't about their transition. It was my transition. Going from opposing what they wanted to do to complete acceptance. And it was the 5 stages of grief. I felt like I was losing my daughter. My daughter was dying in my eyes. And so I speak about this from a true perspective, and I take you through the 5 stages of grief. And midway through the act, after denial, after anger, and when I get to bargaining, that's when the whole set flips. Because the people that are angry and in denial, they're all on my side as the parent at first. And I'm talking in complete ignorance because that's what a lot of people are. And then the whole set takes a complete 180 because it's about me getting to acceptance. And I become a cautionary tale for the people that may be going through this of how you can get through this. Try to get to acceptance as quickly as possible. It took me all of a week. That's all.
It sounds like a busy week.
It was. Well, I was like, no, you can't do this. You can't do that. I'm not supporting it. I was that guy. I was that guy. And I'm ashamed to say it because in my eyes, I was protecting my child. Now understanding that all I was doing was creating distance, and that's not fair to them. Who the F am I to stand in this person's way and tell them what's right for their life? I'm a parent. And the only thing I can do as a parent is be an example to love my child and hope that other parents do the same.
So did your experience with your son and understanding what your sort of thought process was, the 5 stages, and how you reacted to, what pronouns does your son use?
He and they.
Right. So reacting to what they were going through, did that change or affect your thinking at all about comedy and who gets made fun of when and how and when to push buttons?
Yes and no. I think a comedian has the right to have their point of view, just as people have their right to have their point of view. I don't get offended by anybody's humor. I think, look, Don Rickles did a lot of racist jokes, but man, he was really funny. That was a really funny racist. I'm part comedian, right? So before I'm even like black or a man, I'm a comedian. I'm all for comedians developing their point of view, no matter how ignorant, small, inconsiderate, dark. They have to do this. Because if nobody tries to find the funny, then society's missing out on humor.
There are certain comedians, I'm thinking of, Ricky Gervais, Dave Chappelle, where it seems like to them, material about transgender people, it's the taboo that they need to keep pushing at to show that they're willing to push at a taboo.
I don't think it's the taboo that they're pushing at. They just want to say what the hell they want to say. And who are you to tell me what I can say and not say? Dave is a friend of mine. I have a trans child. I'm not going to not be Dave's friend because of his point of view. I went to see his shows. We've had several conversations about things. He knows I have a trans son. But that doesn't change the fact that, hey, he got an hour on this that he wants to do from his point of view, and he has every right to do it. Me and my child had this conversation, and they understood. They may feel that way, but I said, as a comedian, he has every right to say what he wants to say and try to find the humor in what he's saying. I don't think his intention is to make you feel bad. I think he's just trying to protect his right to say what he feels. We don't have to think alike. You're still my friend. I learned from you. There's things I learned from you. And hopefully through conversations, we could come to the fence and agree on and disagree on some things, but we affect change in each other. And that's life. And I think we have to learn to laugh again. We're heading to a very sad place when we can't laugh anymore.
But it's I really think the idea that we don't laugh anymore is just fundamentally wrong. Like, I think, if you take social media as an example, social media just joke after joke after joke, like funny meme after funny meme. To me, the question is really like, what are those jokes saying? And are they...
Who's telling the joke?
Who's telling the joke, and what are they trying to convey with the joke? I think that feels to me like the more germane question or the...
People don't tell the same jokes they used to at work. They don't sit. There's no water cooler talk anymore. You know what I mean? It's like...
When's the last time you were at a water cooler? What do you know about
I got
water
one in my house.
Was your assistant laughing at your jokes? Oh, good for you.
No, but I think, like, even now when you walk on sets, it's like, everybody's tight. Nobody wants to offend. Nobody wants to say anything. Nobody wants to... We're a bunch of robots just walking around where there's no joy. That's why I love performing on a stage, because it's a reminder to me that people still want to laugh. There's nothing like that elation that you get. It's a high that you get when you don't know if this joke that I'm about to say is going to offend everybody, or they're going to walk out, or they're going to boo me, or they're going to hate this, and then you tell it, and everybody cracks up, and you're like, whew. It's just when you get into the corporate setting, or you go, sometimes when you go home, it's safety again. But now, even then, you can't say that. You can't say that. You got your kids telling you, Dad, that's inappropriate. That's inappropriate to you, you little fucker. To me, it's perfect. I pay the rent here. I'm going to say what I want. I'm okay. It's okay for me to be inappropriate. My inappropriateness has paid for your college.
You know, you talked earlier about changes in kind of what's considered funny or what we expect of comedians. And I was thinking about that in the context of your hit movies, you know, which come out of the tradition of like Mel Brooks films or Abrams Zucker films. You know, those were hits. Those were moneymakers. You know, you made them cheap and you made a lot of money on them. But those kinds of films are also really not in vogue anymore. And it seems to me like both in stand-up and in film comedy generally, there's always the idea that the comedy has to be kind of like about something in addition to being funny. Like it can't just be a funny movie. It also has to be about a larger theme. And I'm curious to know, like, why you think the kind of comedies that you made your name with fell out of vogue. What's changed?
Well, if you look at Hollywood for the past 10 years, there hasn't been a lot of comedies, period. Because Hollywood, everything is cyclical. They were chasing the superhero. They were chasing the blockbuster. And I'm very patient because they're gonna make comedies again. But I think the people that's gonna make the comedies are the people that know how to make the comedies. They keep trying to make like these like scary movie. The audience is like, that don't taste like the Wayans. I'm not going. Because they know we know how to tell these jokes. There's a family recipe that we've had. You can't replicate what we do. It's just we know. You can have all the seasonings. You don't know how much to put on it.
Wait, are you is the new scary movie that they just announced that irritating to you?
No, I mean, you know, it's not the first time we've heard it, you know, so if you know, if they want to waste $50 million, go for it.
Do you get a check from that?
No, that's a whole nother conversation. I like to say that, you know, those Weinsteins, they wasn't just, they raped everybody. Like,
not the same.
Business-wise.
Not the same.
Business-wise. Literally and business-wise. We all got a little taste. There were some terrible people.
Good example of an offensive joke.
Depends on the audience. Damn, Dave, you sensitive. I'm gonna take you to a Ricky Gervais show and a Dave Chappelle show. And I'm just gonna sit next to you and watch what you go, oh, God.
Wait, do me being sensitive in a white guy voice.
Oh, God, you can't say that. Christ. Jesus, hey, Christ. That's inappropriate. You know what's crazy?
What's crazy, Marlon?
Like, no, I think, like, even when you go on stage, right, and you say a certain topic, immediately, sometimes you feel the audience tighten up.
Yeah.
And then your job as a comedian is to basically beat them into submission until they either lighten up or they tighten up so much that you leave their tight asses right there and you say goodnight.
Just before we go, I know you got to get ready for a party. Can you tell me a funny party story from your life?
A funny party story?
Yeah, party story. I feel like you've been to a few parties.
I've been to too many parties. Oh, man. I saw Tupac 20 minutes before he got shot. And ironically, I saw Biggie 20 minutes before he got shot. I mean, it's not funny, but wow, what a coincidence.
Wait, is that true?
Yeah.
In both instances?
Yeah.
Holy moly. Yeah, that's not funny.
20 minutes from now, you may get shot. Here's the thing. And then you laugh. He's a sick man, David.
Wait, can I try an offensive joke on you?
Go for it.
So you had 58. I just thought of this one.
Go for it.
You had 58 loved ones?
Yes.
Diaries? You ever think the problem is you? Are you contagious?
They want to get the hell away from me.
58 people? Or wait, I can keep going.
Who's 60 if you include Tupac and Biggie?
There you go. Are you counting anyone that you just admire as a loved one? Like you see Tina Turner died. Oh, she's just number 55.
No, she wasn't one of the people. Some of those people were. Like Chadwick was a friend. That was the hard one.
Yeah.
I swear, like, it's crazy. Like, when you think about how many people have passed, and that's what made me do this special. Because I feel like we need to laugh about it. I needed therapy. It was therapy for me. I still hurt. But man, the last time I cried about my mom and my dad was only on set recently. And that's because my director, he's a sick man, and he wanted to incite some feelings. And he said, just think about how proud your mom and dad are of you right now. And I thought about how I showed up in their absence for my family and how I was able to help bury them, help my older siblings get through, help my nephews and my nieces, just show up for everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they raised me to be, and that's what they'd be proud of.
Well, I appreciate you showing that emotion now. I can see your tears in your eyes. And, I'm sorry that you're going through that, but it's really good for me, for this podcast, if you cry maybe a little bit more audibly. I'd really appreciate that.
I like you. You're going to be my friend, Dave. You're gonna be my friend.
But, thank you for that openness. I appreciate it.
You just want to leave on a high note. But that was a joyful cry. I do miss them, but I know they would be proud.
But Marlon, I'll talk to you later this week.
Yes, sir.
After the break, I call Marlon back to revisit that Weinstein joke and talk a little bit more about parenthood.
I can't say what I am as a father. They can say what I am as a father. And when I'm gone, I hope I left them with a whole lot of love and a whole lot of memories. Whatever flaws wherever I wasn't able to show up, I hope they forgive that.
Hi, Marlon. How are you?
I'm good, man.
So, I was thinking about a very specific moment from our conversation where I asked you about no longer being involved with the Scary Movie franchise, and you mentioned Harvey Weinstein, who, I guess you believe kind of strong-armed you out of the series. And when you brought it up, it was...
Actually, it was Bob and Harvey. Yeah, I'm sorry.
But it was clear you were loading up a joke, and you had this pause where I think you were thinking about then whether to say the joke. And I want to know if you can tell me, like, in your head in that moment, when you have the potentially offensive joke lined up, what is actually going through your head in that pause?
Who's my audience? And I heard you cringe on the other thing, the monkey joke, and I was like, eh. But I was gonna say, you know, he didn't just, you know, he doesn't just rape women. He rapes too. Trust me, we did business with him.
Oof. Yeah.
So you see your response? Did you see your response? We call that, and like me and my brother, we used to be in the writer's room, or we'd be in network notes. And, you know, we've always been edgy with our humor. Always. That's just how we do it, right? And so when people have that reaction, like, oh, God, you know, that little thing you do?
Yeah. Oof.
We used to call that getting on a whitey bike. It was like brothers would crack up at that, but white people like, oh, I don't know about that. And they start pedaling backwards.
You know what's funny, though? I'm not... I don't know if the whitey bike is actually the bike I ride on, because...
Just the fact that you said it made me laugh.
I'm not offended, you know, but there is the thing where it's like when somebody says the taboo thing where you go like, oof, I don't know. Are you allowed to say that? But that's different than taking offense. You know what I mean?
But what is taboo? When you've been in a situation, for me, right? Once again, I can talk about things from a different perspective. And when I talk about Bob and Harvey and I say that, it's because there's damage there. I can go into a whole nother article about the Scary Movie franchise, and you guys will be like, oh, I see why he said what he said. Because we have been victims in that way, but in business. Not physically, but in business. And, you know, I think a monster's a monster, and those monsters showed up in business as well.
Yeah. You know, in the Good Grief special, you talked about how you learned to be a man from your dad. But I'm curious about what you learned about manhood and masculinity from your son.
That sometimes you have to work your femininity. It's okay to be in touch with your feminine. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to express yourself. It's okay to unstrap from your masculinity and your ego. And sometimes that takes you not to, you know, to have a different approach. And sometimes it's not about trying to teach them. Maybe God's trying to teach you something. And so it taught me to be a lot more accepting and unconditional and even forgiving of myself. It's okay to have stupid thoughts. It's okay to forgive yourself for having a point of view that's not completely popular or evolved. It's okay to have those small feelings, those insecure things, those egotistical thoughts that's like, nah, I think I can control everything. And then God breaks you down and life breaks you down. And when you realize that you crumbled and you're on your knees, that's when God can just whisper to you. And you're like, oh, that's what you're trying to teach me. And I'm very grateful to my child. I love that baby because that's my firstborn. And I can't say what I am as a father. They can say what I am as a father. And when I'm gone, I hope I left them with a whole lot of love and a whole lot of memories. Whatever flaws wherever I wasn't able to show up, I hope they forgive that.
You've referred a couple of times to hearing God or God talking to you. And
yep.
Do you remember the last thing God said to you, or the last thing that you remember feeling like it was coming from God?
For me, my God speaks to me every day. He's in everything I do, even in my jokes, even in my experience, even in the darkness. God gave me a gift, which is, and to stay joyful through dark things. He gave me a gift, and I'm going to give that gift as much as I can, as long as I can, and that will be my life identity. Is that in the worst moments, I was able to try and find a smile and hold my hand up through the rubble and go, hey guys, take this one with you.
Well, Marlon, geez Louise, you got a salty mouth, but I just think you're a heck of a guy.
Geez Louise is my favorite. I'm going to keep your number, bro. Anytime I need the white guy voice.
It's been a darn pleasure talking to you.
Darn tootin' time.
That's Marlon Wayans. Good Grief will be available on Prime Video June 4th. When reached for comment during the fact-checking of this episode, Bob Weinstein disputes that Marlon was strong-armed or that the negotiations were cutthroat. This conversation was produced by Seth Kelly. It was edited by Annabelle Bacon, mixing by Efim Shapiro. Original music by Dan Powell and Marian Lozano. Photography by Devin Yalkin. The rest of the team is Priya Matthew and Wyatt Orm. Our executive producer is Allison Benedict. Special thanks to Rory Walsh, Renan Borelli, Isaac Jones, Maddie Masiello, Jake Silverstein, Paula Schumann, and Sam Dolnick. If you like what you're hearing, follow or subscribe to The Interview wherever you get your podcasts. And to read or listen to any of our conversations, you can always go to nytimes.com/theinterview. Next week, my co-host Lulu Garcia-Navarro speaks with Charlemagne the God.
If me as a black man, if I criticize Democrats, then I'm supporting MAGA. But if I criticize, Donald Trump and Republicans, then I'm a Democratic shill. Why can't I just be a person who deals in nuance?
I'm David Marchese, and this is The Interview from The New York Times.